we have Kirsti Laasio coming and talking about shifting to a customer-centric organization. And without further ado, let's invite Kirsti on stage.
Ladies and gentlemen in the house, online, and Team Eficode, I'm super excited to be here, so thanks for having me. I will start this afternoon by walking you through how do you make sure that your organization and your team is customer-centric. And by customer-centric, we actually mean that we think from a customer's perspective. You know how easy it is actually to design products, and when you do that for years or months, you start to be in your own bubble. And in this morning's presentation, you actually heard a very crucial statement that in a sense, people don't necessarily remember what you said or what you did or how your product functions, but people remember how you made them feel. That is customer experience, and I'm going to walk you through today how do you get your organization excited about it and actually them involved. When speaking about customer experience, product and price, easy to copy. Customer experience is at the end, it's the experience. It's the user experience, it's the usage experience, it's the feeling that you leave as a brand or as a product behind. And that's hard to copy, and therefore that's going to be the differentiating factor in the market. So in that sense, you can actually say that when you walk people through at every single touch point, customers have experiences. But the fact is, for you as an organization to really identify which of those moments, those contact points the customer has with you are the most important and meaningful. And in those points, you actually optimize the customer experience. Usually when we think about customer experience, we tend to think that we need to maximize it and kind of like overcome people's expectations. So therefore, it's really, really important that you understand which of those moments of truth are the most important ones to customers. To become a CX champion as an organization, you must and need to make sure that everybody in your organization understands what is their role in providing and offering important and frictionless and memorable customer experience. And secondly, what is your target as an organization? What's your target as a company? What kind of a customer experience you want to leave behind? And have that as an everyday habit. And when we speak about customer touch points, we usually tend to kind of think about customer journeys in a linear way. And when you type into Google customer journey maps, you get tons of different ways to kind of picture your customers' experience along each touch points your company delivers. So besides the product, certainly the customer will have several touch points before you actually decide to buy the product. And therefore it's important to understand holistically as a management what kind of customer experience you want and need to offer, but also in the organization, what does it mean in my everyday work and life, in that sense, where do I need to focus on? So therefore, understanding customer experience in a form of a loop, because the customer, if you once have won the customer, you put so much effort in customer acquisition, then you have the brilliant product and service that you offer, and you want to make sure the customer gets back. You retain the customer. You actually have the ability and capability to sell the customer actually more services and products. And in case, if that happens, if the customer decides to leave you at one day, make sure that even that experience is brilliant, because customers will remember how you made them feel. They may forget what your product did, because there's tons of products out there on the market. So especially when thinking about B2B sites, selling software, even the B2B buyer or user has an experience. So therefore, it's important to understand that it's the entire organization that needs to take into account what the customer's experience is, what's the reality. Usually the customers, especially when speaking about like software or technical products, or especially in the B2B side, we can say that the customers, they want to have a convenient and consistent experience that is effortless, frictionless, and personal. Because you know like how annoying it is, for example, to get an email that, dear first name dot last name. You want to get it for yourself. The same is that when you take, for example, a service in use, if it requires friction, you need to go from one channel to another. You are online, they require you to call. It's a friction point, so it's not frictionless in that sense. Also, it needs to be effortless. You want to save time. You want to make sure as a customer that when you decide to go with a software, that it really takes your needs into account and it's really frictionless, that I don't need to kind of make sure that I need to spend extra time in taking this product in or service in use. So when I say everybody is accountable for customer experience, CX experience, how do we technically do that? And especially when designing products. Because, you know, we have tight timelines, we have budgets, we do have specs that we need to fulfill. There is a competitive market out there. We need to make sure that we offer something different. It's not very easy to kind of like change your mindset necessary if you have been years and years working very, very product focused. There's nothing wrong with that. But usually we tend to forget as companies that who do we actually serve for? What's the need? What's the need of the customer? We may do that in the beginning, but at the end, while designing products, we tend to look from our perspective. We look from inside out. What's the customer really needing? And the main idea is actually to turn that thinking to outside in, really to make sure that within the organization, every now and then, we think customer. We are customer-centric. And customer centricity doesn't mean that every single step that you are providing, that you provide the most valuable experience, because that's very expensive too. What's very key for you to understand is to find out those touch points that are the most meaningful there. So when speaking about like designing products and the customer experience itself, it's very important that the customer journey is understood, and how do you create within the organization a customer-centric understanding. And you can start, as I mentioned in the very beginning, that customer journey start with mapping, that you understand what happens before the customer actually takes the product in use. The marketing teams need to understand where do I find the kind of like right audiences, and I would say kind of like which needs you need to address. But there's ways to do that, but then it tends to happen so that the customer journey stays in your files, and you forget to think about at the end, what was actually the customer's perspective. So as an exercise, what I've done with many product teams, that we've started to map the customer journey. What happens before taking the product in use, what happens during the product usage, and what happens after. So in a sense, like even when the customer decides to stop using our product, or the moments where we have an opportunity to sell more, additional sales and services. So you can start with a single post-it note exercise. And therefore, it's very key and important that you involve the entire team and organization. You can do that by organizational function at the beginning. And this is one example with a company I was working before, Happy or Not, which is for customer experience data. We mapped the entire customer experience in a 360 degrees view in a meeting room. So took every print, took even sales calls to be listened by everybody, and invited like even the higher upper management to join us and really understand what we provide. And it looked at the beginning very, very messy, but we turned that actually into a kind of like a customer journey and content map, which meant that everybody in the company, also those who were remote, had access to like really review how does the customer journey look like. But it's not only this, because I said like, it's so easy can turn out that you look to the customer's world from inside out. What we did is we invited customers to really understand what are these guys providing us as a marketing. This is the message. Then I type in, please contact me. This is what I get in return. And we, for example, understood all of a sudden that we were sending invoices at a totally wrong point of time. And then we looked at the invoice. The invoice was having some kind of internal kind of like codes and names which were totally not relevant for the customer. And we understood only by kind of inviting the customers really walk with us through the customer's journey. And we actually took the invoice as a medium to really sell more products. So there was a kind of like a, hey, this is what you use, this is what you purchase. And by the way, the majority of customers who buy this service, they also like this and that. So kind of like recommendation. But as a simple example, we verified what we offered. So not only the product and service, so we had numerous workshops that customers gave us feedback that how do you truly kind of, get the value out of our product itself. And they kind of verified that whether it works or not, gave us tips and tricks, understanding also what we need to tweak in the product. And we had a lot of like features and functions which we thought by pre-interviews or by studying the market, we thought that these are really, really, really necessary for the customer. But it turned out when we really invited the customers and went really to see how they used it in their real life, we saw that they actually only used a fraction of it. And secondly, because it's a software, it also turned out that we were bombarding them with too many features in the very beginning. So we learned through this kind of like exercise inviting the customers that we actually have to stage the messaging to the customers, not everything at once, but we also like figured out that what's the best way to kind of inform the benefits of the features at which point of time, and we're informing them later on. Even though the customer at the beginning had, oh, wow, there's so much value in it, but they're gonna they forget like what were the features, what were the benefits of it. But with this exercise, we were kind of able to also figure out how to turn it. And that meant actually that it was a change of mindset in the company itself, because we tend to do the customer and market studies in the beginning, and we might verify it before we bring the product. But it kind of like, even in this case, it hadn't turned out into a kind of habit in the company that we really think about the customer's needs. And therefore, we kind of introduced different kind of methods that it wasn't always possible to have the customer sitting in our room. So we had this kind of like customer chair, especially in product development phases. The designer, every single designer or every single coder or even the project manager, they had to sit on that chair every now and then in the meeting and really represent the customers, to really change the mindset that this person represents now the customer and really has to go into the shoes of the customer. That, is this really what our promise was to the customer? Is this really what the customer is needing? And kind of like that person's role was really to sit on that chair and making sure that the customer needs are taken care of. Another one, which is when we think about how do you get your teams to really kind of change your mindset. And one is certainly that they have a purpose in their work. They know what the target is of their work. They need to understand what is the customer outcome. Note, outcome, not kind of like what's the customer doing. What's the customer outcome they are fulfilling with their job? And if you're, for example, a coder, it's a single piece and it's sometimes hard to understand holistically that how does my piece of work, what kind of effect or value does it have at the end for the customer? So therefore, it's kind of really, really important that they understand what's the purpose of their work. And we took very, very often with several companies I have worked for and with, we took actually some of the key designers, the developers, to that moment when we delivered the customer the product. I have the key example here, which is actually from John Deere, providing what are they called now? These kind of like big machines for forest or agriculture. And they had issues in the assembly line that people got kind of like they were rushing because their KPI was the time of assembly, and they rushed and they forgot the quality. And they had no, like they were kind of like, but you're pushing us with these KPIs, so why, like why should I care? And they changed the KPIs and took these assemblers to actually to that very moment to deliver the customer the product, so handing over the key. And that was a purposeful moment for these designers. They really understand, oh my gosh, this is kind of like, it's a very expensive machinery, and especially for some private buyers, it's really important to kind of like understand what's the key here. So at the end, we need to make sure that we empower everybody and also listen to our customers and make sure that that feedback we get inside in the company, that's available for everybody. So not only, like we often tend to think that it's customer service who is responsible for customer experience. It's customer experience who's responsible for gathering the feedback and distributing. But as a company, when we gather feedback, we need to make sure that it's available for everybody, or we take that into product development. Because when the customer really makes the effort to give us feedback and leave us feedback, we need to react on that and actually give also something back to the customer, because nothing is more frustrating that you as a customer give feedback and then it kind of like disappears. Nothing happens, or you never hear back, and you kind of like your motivation goes down in the future to give any feedback because it has no value. And therefore, I'm kind of like saying that when you get the feedback, have a two-directional conversation also with the customer. That, hey, valid points. These are the changes we are going to make. And it doesn't mean that the customer is always right. It's sometimes kind of like, the customer is totally using the product in a wrong way. But the feeling the customer has when operating with you is true. So every time I'm saying kind of a customer experience is always true because it's a feeling, it's something the customer experiences. It's kind of your target to kind of have your ear open, be personal, and make sure that the customer gets heard, not hurt, in order to kind of like make changes, or give the customer also kind of an explanation why certain things are in a different manner. But never leave the customer alone. The same applies when the customer gives you feedback. Utilize that feedback within the team and make it available for everyone. Also within product development, also within marketing, or even finance, as my invoice example was opening up. So it's everybody's job. It's a change of mindset. So to summarize, when speaking about customer centricity and how do you kind of lead your teams in a customer-centric mindset, what are the 5 key tips I want to leave you back today? You may have your own to add on, but at least with all those companies I've worked for, these are kind of like the proven where we have really changed from a very product market-focused inside-out thinking into outside-in thinking, where we really got customer loyalty, so meaning like your customers or our customers stayed with us years and also recommended us further, which is kind of like one of the marketers' key targets as well, that you get so many loyal customers that you don't actually need to market anymore. I mean, it would be nice one day, but at the end, your customers are actually doing your work. So what are the 5 key tips? One is certainly driving internal awareness, and that 360 degrees example, an exercise within the company, where you open up like all the different touch points the customer has with your company. There might be like 250, 300, even 500. Even handing out the business card might be a touch point. So when you do that mapping, it kind of like you open up a bit that, oh my gosh, this is what we offer as a company. And this is quite often an eye-opening thing, especially also like for the management, that they are sometimes so far away and then they say, yeah, let's be customer-centric. And then kind of like the focus within the company never gets down into reality, into practicalities. So therefore, like this driving awareness in every single like piece, what you're doing, to whom are we making this? What is the kind of like, what's the value and what's the problem we are solving for the customer? Keep this in mind. And how's the like customer, what's the next kind of call to action? Where do you want to lead the customer from touch point to touch point? The same applies within product development. When you kind of lead the customer doing one action, second action, you always need to think about how do you kind of lead the customer from one point to another. Second is focusing on the customer outcomes. And these outcomes means here that you truly understand which problem is the customer really trying to solve, which need are you solving for the customer, so that the customer has at the end the feeling that, yes, it was time well spent or time well saved with this company's product or service or software, whatever it is. So therefore, kind of like focusing on whatever we deliver, easy, truly solving the customer's problem. And then if it's not, you may need to think, is that actually that customer also right for you? That's an important question too. We always think like, oh, the entire world is our market. So everything for everybody, which is nothing for nobody. So therefore, it kind of like focusing your business or your offering to the customer's need. And then measuring. Like you offered something, you need to measure that, was it really happening? Is the customer really satisfied? The third one on the road to become more customer-centric in thinking-wise is promoting empathy. And with empathy, I don't mean sympathy. Of course, sympathy is interesting as well and needed in some cases. But empathy means that you have the capability to really jump into your customer's shoes or pants or whatsoever you use as a metaphor here. But at the end, even like I would even say, like, don't rationalize the customer too much. And by rationalizing, I mean that all of a sudden you start to have personas to whom you develop something. Think about it's kind of like people. It's people with needs to whom we offer our products. Even in B2B, it's people who use software. It's people who use services. Therefore, it's kind of always kind of like good to understand in what kind of context is the person moving, so that you are able to solve the needs there. Then within the company, rewarding and celebrating customers' success. So if the customers really kind of, you get to that what you kind of promised them, the so-called product promise, then celebrate that within your company as well. And there's like nowadays the trend also, a lot of companies, especially in SaaS, software as a service business, that teams around it built around customer success. They take care and make sure the customer gets the whole value out of it. And that's a good example where you also move into a customer centricity. That team certainly has a commercial target, but also is there to make sure that everything that you offer the customer really gets value out of it. And last but not least, it's the employees. So if you take good care of your team members, that will really make sure, it usually turns out also that happy employees equal happy customers. So if everybody knows like what's my job, what's within my job, I understand to whom I provide the value, then customer experience doesn't happen by accident. And I feel also I have a purpose in working, I'm being valued, my supervisors, my company takes care of my experience too. And that leads also always kind of like to better customer outcomes. The main point here to my ending slide is customer experience doesn't happen by accident. And when you kind of are able to lead it with a customer-centric mindset, shift can happen. That's my closing words for the topics. I guess it was now time for questions.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope basically every company in Finland hears your message and story. This is really important. I would like to hear your thinking if I would challenge you in taking one further step, because now what I heard is that we would bring the understanding of our customer within our organization. But if we would take one step further and we would actually turn the tables around and mentally be a part of our customer's business, and then take turn the tables around, that we will start thinking about our own organization, like really physically from the customer's business perspective. And as an example, one of my businesses, Heat Hamster, we have only 2 KPIs we measure. One of them is hääräämispäivä, which means that we are doing something in our customers' facilities, and the other is luuhaamispäivä, which means that we are hanging around asking questions. And a little bit this kind of mindset that our facility is our customer's facility, and from there we really look at our own organization. So any thoughts of this?
An excellent question and point, and it's definitely it's part of that process, especially if you kind of provide expert services, or if you develop whatever software for your customers' needs. There are several companies who are actually already doing that. So they have turned in these terms like customer success, and want to make sure that the customer really gets the outcomes. They start from going into the customer's facilities, but then the next step was actually that they opened the doors and worked together. So there's actually a Finnish company called Lindström who've exactly done that. That they have Sievo, who's actually done that. The software company they have sent their teams to really spend some time at the customer's facilities, and then vice versa. Done it the other way around. So it's really the next level step to make sure that you kind of like serve the needs.
There's a question from the line. Some people have had some negative experiences with services provided. Let's face it, and therefore empathy is required in the service and handling those negative experiences towards the customer. What's your take on taking this empathy into account in designing that customer feedback process?
It's a good point. In that sense, like taking empathy, you need to make sure that you understand truly what you are solving, if I understand the question here right. And it's usually that you start to look for excuses, when the customer kind of like gives you feedback. But as part of taking the feedback into account in designing the service, I guess like that was the question. You need to truly put that into the context, like what is it what the customer really is trying to solve here, or what is the customer really needing, and making sure, once more, also going back to the question, that is that customer the right one for you? Because it might mean that the customer is looking for something totally different and giving feedback for you based on that, and you design a totally different product. So therefore, kind of you need to make sure that the feedback loop goes into it. You understand the customer's need, and you need to verify also that is this frequent, because if it's only one feedback, it may not be like too wide either.
Okay, I guess we have opportunity to take one short one. Anyone want to ask? If not, I'll take the stand.
Yes.
Because any tips on like how to keep the customer like close to every day, like that somehow reminding all the people that the customer every day, because it's so easy to do the CX thing once and then it's forgotten.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the thing. I think that's really the key key here. How do you make it an everyday thing? And there's numerous ways. The customer chair was one, because it's an everyday designing life. Second thing is that you have the customer feedback visibility. Whatever, you have a screen that you see that. You really kind of like bring little things in your everyday life. And then third thing, which is a two-dimensional thing, that you need to be also proactive to your customers' direction. So not in terms of communication, so not only then when something new is coming, but why not checking in with the customer every now and then? You know, like how is it going with our product and service? And then you may hear something that you didn't think about. But that's kind of like a couple of ways how you can, in your everyday life, bring that. And like, you know, some of us go back to the offices and using the office space really to bring the customer alive there. But you can do that also like online and inviting your team members to really have an interaction with the customer. The key point is here, reserve enough time to spend in your customer's shoes to have the perspective.
Thanks. I think that was a good ending quote. So thanks a lot. Let's give a big upload already.
Thank you. Thanks.